Could President Emmerson Mnangagwa be making the biggest political mistake of his presidency? That is the warning coming from former finance minister and constitutional lawyer Tendai Biti, who says constitutional amendment known as CAB3 could create a political crisis instead of solving one. According to Biti, the government still has time to change course. But if it pushes ahead, he warns that the consequences could be far-reaching for Zimbabwe's democracy, political stability, and even President Mnangagwa's legacy. So why is Biti urging the president to withdraw CAB 3? And why does he believe the bill is such a dangerous political gamble? Let's get into it.
Good afternoon, compatriots. Good afternoon, fellow defenders. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very proud of the team we have here, our chair lady, blessed, our spokes, Ruimbo, the entire leadership of the Federation. I want to salute you. This meeting was called a very short notice, but we've got the numbers here. And for me, it's a miracle that the CDF was only launched after very difficult circumstances on the 5th of March 2026. But here we are building an organization, an important organization. Protecting the constitution is so important. And this is one of the reasons why we've made it clear that this organization is not a political party. It will not be a political party. It is going to oversee and protect the constitution 200 years from now. We've seen constitutions under threat, even in the United States of America. Someone once is going to go for a state. Yet the American Constitution was made in 1774. So it is important to humbly protect the constitution. So it's very humbling to be here amongst the fellow citizens in the diaspora. Our diaspora is very important as Zimbabwe. I consider that it's one state, in such state, will reap the diaspora dividends. Because you are here exposed to first world standards. Many of you are going to universities, acquiring knowledge. One day, that knowledge will benefit a democratic, free Zimbabwe. There are over 6 million, 7 million Zimbabweans outside Zimbabwe. And many of them will left involuntarily, through political persecution, through economic difficulties, through domestic challenges, through conflict, through acquisition. Half the voting population in Zimbabwe is actually now outside Zimbabwe. And 74% of our professionals, our top scientists, our top engineers, our top doctors, they are now suffering in the diaspora. So we've been suffering in hemorrhage, brain drain in the diaspora. Yet as Rebellion saying, you are now making a fundamental contribution to the country's resources. Diaspora remittances are now $3 billion, and that's much more than foreign direct investment, which is less than $800 million. That is now much more than foreign aid, which with the collapse of the US aid is now less than $500 million. So if the diaspora were to close tapes, Zimbabwe will suffer. People will die. Many people that you say the money at work.
Zimbabwe's constitutional debate has entered a new phase after former finance minister and senior opposition figure Tendai Biti issued a strong warning over Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3. Biti argues that the proposed constitutional changes represent a major political mistake and has urged President Emmerson Mnangagwa and his administration to reconsider before it is too late. Critics of the bill, including Biti, say the proposed reforms could weaken democratic safeguards established under Zimbabwe's 2013 constitution. The bill has become one of the most controversial political issues in Zimbabwe this year. Supporters describe it as a package of governance and electoral reforms designed to improve institutional efficiency and political stability. Opponents see it very differently. They argue that the amendments could fundamentally alter how Zimbabwe's democracy functions. At the heart of Biti's criticism is his belief that the constitution should not be changed to serve short-term political interests. For years, Biti has described himself as a defender of the 2013 constitution, which was approved through a national referendum. He argues that the constitution represents a social contract between citizens and the state and should only be amended when there is overwhelming public consensus. According to Biti, CAB3 risks undermining that principle. One of the biggest concerns raised by critics involves proposals that would change how the president is selected. Under the bill, Zimbabwe would move away from direct presidential elections and instead allow the president to be elected by parliament. Opponents argue that such a change would reduce the direct role of citizens in choosing their national leader. For Biti and other critics, this is not a minor adjustment. They view it as a major shift in the relationship between citizens and political power. Another controversial proposal is the extension of terms of office from 5 years to 7 years. Supporters say longer terms would give governments more time to implement development projects and long-term policies. Critics, however, argue that extending terms risks weakening democratic accountability and reducing opportunities for citizens to regularly evaluate their leaders through elections. This is one reason why the debate has become so emotionally charged. Both sides claim they are defending Zimbabwe's future, but they have very different ideas about what that future should look like. Biti also believes that CAB3 could create unnecessary political divisions at a time when Zimbabwe faces important economic and social challenges. According to his argument, the government should be focusing on economic recovery, job creation, public services, and improving living standards rather than becoming consumed by constitutional battles. For him, the bill risks becoming a distraction that deepens political polarization. The former finance minister's warning comes as Parliament continues debating the legislation. Reports from the National Assembly show that dozens of lawmakers have participated in discussions, with supporters arguing that the reforms are necessary for long-term governance and stability. At the same time, opposition MPs, constitutional lawyers, and civil society organizations continue raising objections to various provisions of the bill. This has turned CAB3 into one of the most significant constitutional debates since the adoption of the 2013 constitution. Biti's advice to President Mnangagwa is simple: withdraw the bill before it creates deeper political tensions. He believes doing so would help preserve public confidence in constitutional governance and avoid a prolonged national dispute. Whether the government will heed that advice remains unclear. Supporters of CAB3 insist the process is lawful and should continue through Parliament. They argue that constitutional amendments are part of normal democratic governance and should be debated on their merits. The bigger question now is, what happens next? Will support for CAB3 continue to grow inside Parliament? Will opposition to the bill intensify? Or could political negotiations lead to changes in some of the more controversial provisions? Those questions remain unanswered. But one thing is certain: the battle over CAB3 is no longer just a legal discussion. It has become a national conversation about democracy, leadership, power, and Zimbabwe's future. As Parliament prepares for the next phase of debate, all eyes remain fixed on the outcome. Because for supporters, CAB3 represents reform. For critics like Tendai Biti, it represents a dangerous mistake. And the decision made in the coming weeks could shape Zimbabwe's political landscape for years to come. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Tendai Biti that CAB3 should be withdrawn? Or do you believe Parliament should continue with the amendment process? Is CAB 3 necessary constitutional reform? Or is it a political risk that could create more division? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Zimbabwe and Africa news. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.